It was an offseason that we will all remember. And in the final season of the Pac-12 as we know it, comes Season 3 of the It Factory. It will be full of players that are on preseason watch lists, will be on future NFL draft lists. As always, we will take the helmet off of the top players on the West Coast and tap into who they are and why they stand out. I'm Yogi Roth, and welcome back to the It Factory. Welcome back, or welcome to the It Factory. I am your host, Yogi Roth, and it's Thanksgiving week. How about that? I know we're all reflecting on what we're thankful for. I feel like today's guest has said thank you many times in his life, but what he may not know is that all of us that get to meet him in person, we are thankful for him. Yes, he is Cal's starting quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, from Miami to Berkeley, a path that many probably haven't traveled as much as they need to. Fernando, welcome to the show, man.
First of all, that's a hell of an introduction. Thank you, Mr. Roth.
Yeah, thank you, man. So let's begin there. You know, we've spent some time together calling a couple of your games this season. Here we are in the final week of the season. When you think back, if you can, because I know you're in it right now, but think back to you're in Miami and you're on your way to Yale. You got a chance to walk on at Alabama, and now you're the starting quarterback at Cal. What do you think?
I think it's been a tremendous journey, and I really do give all the glory to God. As a year ago or 2 years ago in my position, being committed to Yale, not thinking that's where I was going to end up for the most part. I would never think in a million years that I'd be ending up at Cal, playing in the big game, and to be a part of this rich quarterback lineage that Cal has going on, and being able to be a part of that. So it's been crazy to me. As 2 years ago, I thought I was going to Yale and essentially going to be very academic based and trying to be the next Ryan Fitzpatrick of Ivy League football. But other than that, it's been crazy. It's been a crazy journey, but I can't give thanks enough to the Lord and all my supporters.
Yeah, I want to talk about those supporters because, and I mean it. Like, I came home from calling a couple of your games earlier this season, and I'm talking to my kids about you. I'm saying, hey, you got to meet this guy, Fernando Mendoza, because you've got this beautiful role model side of you, but that comes from somewhere. Your parents, your dad was an athlete. He was a national champion, right, at Miami as a rower. Your mom seems amazing, Elsa, from getting to know you a little bit and hearing about her. How have they curated you and the clay that you are and molded it into the man you become?
Yeah, I would say you used the perfect word for it, curated. It definitely took a lot of learning experiences. However, they've done a great job with, I believe, my brothers and I, and just putting us through experiences. We're able to learn how to be a respectful young man and be able to learn from our experiences and be informed on what's going on in the world. So I give all the credit to them, as they've raised me from this young, scrawny little kid in Miami who was just playing on the streets, football, just running around, creating tree houses and just going around throwing water balloons at our neighbors, to now this starting quarterback at the University of Berkeley. So it's been pretty crazy.
That's a great image. You throwing water balloons. I can imagine.
Yeah.
But there's a playful side, I think, to your answer that makes me lean in and want to double click on that. Where and how have people talked to you about taking the craft seriously? Because you do, right? You've got Tom Brady on your screensaver on your phone Thursday through game day, I believe. Two, also being able to handle the fun and enjoy it versus make it too serious. And I'm wondering if there's an origin story to that's allowed it to play out here at Cal.
Yeah, I will say that football is an amazing experience, and I found a lot of joy in the process of playing football. However, as you said, there is a balance, as it is very joyful to play with my teammates, my brothers, and my best friends at a Division I scale against these amazing universities, such as USC and Oregon, throwing to some of my best friends, throwing and just playing with my teammates that I've curated relationships with throughout all of our conditioning and just throughout my tenure here. And however, there also is another side of seriousness where you need to correct your mistakes, and at the end of the day, it is a business and you need to win. So I found joy in balancing those two, as those are both two very important aspects of football. As you you want to keep those equal, and you don't want to one way more than the other, because if you get too serious, then you're gonna cave in, and you're gonna get totally encompassed with the game. And I will say that I am obsessed with the game of football. However, at some points I do realize the joy in playing football and why I play it, because I believe that all great players really do enjoy playing football.
Yeah, that's a cool answer, man. I can remember I grew up with this quote that I don't think was the healthiest. I'll share it with you. It goes something like, "When you're not working, someone is, and when you meet, given fairly equal ability, he will win." And that was a big driver for me when I was your age. But as I reflect back upon that, I didn't see that as a healthy lens on how to view competing or putting work in, because I think it kind of had me always competing against this imaginary figure versus competing against the reality of myself. I wonder how that lands on you and where you net out with that concept.
Yeah, no, I believe that's a great quote, and I've embodied that quote, and I've heard it throughout a ton of quarterback camps and a ton of mentors that I've had throughout the year. So it's really funny that you bring that quote up. And I will say that I don't believe that it is healthy at times. However, if you do have an obsession with it and you have a drive and competitive to your craft, in the end, it's going to be healthy, sustaining that and attaining that goal of yours. And my goal is perfection. And I know here at Cal, our goal is perfection, and it is to win every single game that we do play. And some say that perfection is not attainable and it's not graspable. However, we try and strive for it every single day. And so I will say that whenever I always, that quote has essentially created a mindset of always being productive. Whenever I'd play video games as a kid, I'd always love playing video games. However, especially as high school in the recruiting process, I was like, oh, someone else is working out, and I'm just here sitting playing video games. So it created a sense of uneasiness and, in a sense, and drive of motivation, because I know if I really want to perfect this craft and I really want to go to the places I want to go, I need to work and be obsessed with this.
All right, so speaking of going, I think most people that are in college as a quarterback who are sitting and are third on the depth chart and may not see the light at the end of the depth chart in which they are playing, and the light is on them, often would dip. You chose not to. I'm curious if you had thoughts in your own dialogue of like, maybe I won't play here. And if you didn't, how did you navigate the healthiest and most competitive of mindsets to be prepared the way you were when you became the starting quarterback here?
Yeah, I think the transfer portal was a beautiful and monstrous thing at the same time, as I believe there are very valid reasons to transfer, whether it's to transfer up just to give you better exposure, or you're just in a sticky situation. However, in my situation, especially with a new coaching staff and new offensive staff coming, I was frightened, to say the least. I didn't know what to expect. Usually when a new quarterback coach comes in, all quarterback coaches have their image of their quarterback and them playing in their system in their mind already. So I didn't know if my physical skills and my mental skills were going to align with Coach Spav's needs and wants and desires. So I was nervous. However, to be quite honest, it didn't really strike me to transfer, as I know that, as we talked about before, the one cure to everything, and one cure, as I said, one cure to everything is just working harder and competing and being the best quarterback possible. Because no matter what the system was, no matter who else they brought in, if I can just be positive and control the controllables, at the end of the day, they're going to need to put the best quarterback out there on the field, and that was always my goal.
Yeah, I think it's really fun for me to get to talk to Justin Wilcox or Jake Spavital, who you referenced, Coach Spav, your offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. I think they're two of the best people in the industry. I've been in this thing for over 20 years now. I'm curious, as a player, like, can you guys recognize that? Or is it like, hey, it's head coach, it's coordinator, it's organization, it's structure, it's call sheets? And if so, like, what is the dialogue in the locker room around those two guys on your side of the ball and the guy overseeing the whole operation?
I will say that those two are tremendous individuals. However, I believe that Coach Wilcox does not get the love that he deserves, as Coach Wilcox is a tremendous person, as you just said, and a tremendous mind of football, and he's helped my development a ton. As every Thursday, I believe that I ran into you talking to Coach Wilcox. I'll watch film with Coach Wilcox and the opposing team as he can give me a defensive-minded approach to that next opponent. But I will say Coach Wilcox has helped me a ton with my leadership aspects. He's helped me a lot with my just football intelligence, and he's also helped me on things that work on the physical side. And I can say the same about Coach Spav. I believe that those are two great coaches and great individuals, and the locker room sees that. In the locker room, that's why you can see such a high competitiveness in our locker room and in our team and desire to play, because you're not only playing for yourself, you're playing for the front of the jersey, which is the program, Cal, and all the coaches, and you're also playing for the back of your jersey, which is your last name. So I believe with those two combined, we've had a really good culture here, especially with playing hard and competing tough.
Yeah, that's well said, man. Whenever I get to talk to locker rooms, and I'll ask the question to the team, like, hey, how many of you are working on or already have a logo? And a lot of hands go up, which I think is super cool. Like, I love all elements of NIL. Yeah. But the follow-up is, how many of you are leveraging the logo, right? The one that's on your hoodie right now, or the one that's behind you. And I think there's such power to that. So I want to ask you a question, like big picture, like college football, since you've been in college, man, has gone through seismic changes, right? Realignment's one conversation, but the portal, NIL, COVID, recruiting, like there's been so many things. How do you think, or how would you advise an athlete to be able to navigate waters as they become muddied and often are things that are outside of your control, but affect you and your day-to-day?
Yeah, all those things, as you said, have created a seismic change in the landscape of college football. However, as you said before, control the controllables is one thing Coach Wilcox preaches. As your brand increases and our brand increases if your performance increases. So if your well-being and your performance increases, your brand's going to get more recognition. You're going to get more, just everything. You're going to get more NIL. You're going to get more recognition as conference honors and in national honors. So that's a big thing that Coach Wilcox emphasizes. Control the controllables. There's a lot of media and there's a lot of talk, especially around the offseason of college football, of, oh, who's getting this just throughout the nation on social media, of, oh, who's getting this NIL deal, oh, who's doing all of these things that have just recently changed in the college football landscape. However, to be quite honest, one thing that I've focused on, I know our team is focused on, is controlling the controllables and playing the best that we can play as individuals and as a unit. So if you do those two things, that all those things will take care of themselves.
Okay, so one cool thing that you can't control is how you're perceived. And that could be cool some weekends, it could be miserable other weekends.
Yeah.
But your life changed this season. I can remember the first time I started playing in college, and it was like, ooh, this is kind of cool. But what's it been like for you, man? Like, has life changed on campus? What's the most unique story that you may have that you didn't expect once you became the starting quarterback at Cal?
I will say life has changed, as we have a really strong football culture here at Cal, and being the starting quarterback means a lot to a lot of people here. And on campus, we're very academically focused, so there hasn't been a ton of change on campus, but I enjoy that, as I like to dissociate campus and academics with football. So I will say that there has been added attention, whether it's just going out and whether going out in the glade and someone be like, oh, like, what's up? Like, I saw you at the football game this Saturday, or whatsoever. However, it also creates a perspective of always be close to who was with you when we were going through the ringer, when you were third string and there was no light through the tunnel. So it does put a perspective of who has been there from the start, and also how all this, there are perks, but as fast as the perks come, they can go, especially with malperformance. So you always got to keep it up and be consistent.
All right, well, consistent is I feel like a middle name for you. I know it's not yours, but you consistently drop the names of your teammates in press conferences. I love how you had this photo of Oregon State where you consistently shook the referee's hand. Like, where does this personality come from, and how would you describe it?
I would describe it as authentic. I mean, my personality is just who I am. I don't try to be anybody else. I just try to be respectful and have fun with it, as my parents taught me from a young age. So it's not like I'm posing to try to be another character or whatsoever. I believe that I'm positive most of the times, evidently everyone has bad days. At the end of the day, you always got to look at the positivity of it and have fun with it, as it's all a journey. And I praise God for everything He's done for me. But at the end of the day, I would describe it as authentic, because I'm just trying to be myself, especially as a leader and as a quarterback. Some people can always put on this mask and figure if you need to be really demanding, you need to be very, and which our offense is. And however, I always just try to be myself, because I believe people follow behind individuals who are themselves and aren't posers.
Yeah, I think you'd fall under the category and the definition of uncommonly consistent, which I think all high achievers are that. With that said, I shared a quote with you in one of our production meetings, which I want to hear your response to, which is, at the core of optimism is resilience. How do you feel about that? And then when you think about your optimistic outlook on life and the resiliency you've had to manage in life, can you put that into some sort of context for us?
I will say, ever since you mentioned that quote, it's helped me tremendously, as especially through these past couple of weeks. It has been tough and frustrating for myself, as we have not been winning as much as I would enjoy. However, especially with those experiences, you always need to be positive and look at kind of how we've been resilient, as sometimes a turnover might happen or an unfortunate play might happen. However, you need to be resilient and positive and on the next play. That's a learning experience. However, put that one in the past and let's go to the future. So I would say that's something that I have embodied ever since that you've mentioned that quote to me. And it's also just, it's been helping my mindset a lot, especially through these past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't know if you relate to this, and it's super cool if you don't, but I'm the son of a refugee, and my mom's parents both went through the Holocaust. And I always felt that, like, once I heard that quote, I was like, of course, my life makes sense, because I am, I think, incredibly optimistic and resilient. And it's because I had this story that I would learn as a child around two people surviving a concentration camp, of going through the Holocaust. And it became part of my narrative of, like, dude, I could hang through anything. I wonder for you, because you also are, your parents are both first generation, right? Your
Yes.
grandparents moved over to Miami from Cuba. Does that play into you and how you define yourself and how you find your way to seek optimism amid challenging times?
It does. My grandfather, Alberto Espino, is one of my role models. He always depicts stories about life back in Cuba and how tough the change was. I mean, one day he's just 21-year-olds around the same age that I am, living in Cuba, and all of a sudden their family, they're moving over, and he's now living in a one bedroom house with 8 of his cousins, working 2 jobs, trying to attend school, and essentially juggling all of these different tasks at hand that are demanding, especially while moving to a new country, while not even speaking the primary language, while speaking a different language. So when I hear those struggles and how he's been successful through that, and later on in life being successful and growing from those experiences and those tough times and that adversity, it essentially kind of gives me an empowerment, and that if my family and my grandfather, my grandparents and my parents were able to go through that adversity, why is this little bump in the road throwing me off? I should be able to run through a brick wall.
Yeah, that's really well said. All right, I call this my final 5. Final 5 questions. Tell me the first thing that comes to mind as I hit you with these, okay?
Let's go.
All right, let's go, baby. Here we go, Fernando. Number 1, and I bet you got a great answer for this, but
Okay.
Question is, the best advice you've ever received is?
I will say that my mom has always struck the importance and concept of visualization and positivity through me throughout my childhood, throughout my tough years in high school, and throughout just every aspect of my life. So I believe that I do embody that, and my mom says always look at the positive outlooks of life and visualize it happening. So I believe that's a very important advice I've gotten.
Question number 2, what's the worst advice you've ever received?
I say the worst advice that I've ever gotten in my life is, hey, it's not that serious. It's just football. And at the end of the day, although it is a sport and it is a game, and I do find joy in playing with my brothers and just joyous in traveling to new states, traveling to new stadiums, and it is a really fun experience. At the end of the day, football does mean a lot to me, and it's a sort of obsession for myself. And that's not something that's just football. And it's just going to be a lifestyle for myself, whether it's in college or when I play in the NFL. So I will say that's some advice that has not sat well with me. However, that it is good in some perspectives.
Yeah, what's great about that answer is that we've had a couple hundred like high achieving draft picks on this show, and a lot of them say that is their worst advice. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I love how serious you take the craft because you pour everything into it. And I do think that in whatever we do, we know coming in it's not life or death,
Yeah.
but it still matters. And I think there's something to seeking out what matters most in our life and then chasing it, man, with a discipline. And I don't know, I just want to say I love that answer by you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, just kind of reiterating that point, it is not life or death. It's not certainly near the adversity that my grandparents and parents faced, hence the transitions to the United States. However, I will say that I am not the one to take complacent advice, and I believe that complacency, whether it's in your craft, does not breed excellence, and I'm looking for excellence.
Amen. Okay, I want to pivot to a challenging moment in your life. Question number 3. I was there in Eugene, and I saw Javian Thomas go through what he went through on the field when he got hit, and then subsequently had to get carted off the field. How is that experience? And thank God he is healthy. Nothing tremendously serious with him because we didn't know at the time. At least we didn't know up in the booth. What did that do to you as a young player in college who I'd imagine has never experienced something like that before?
Yeah, so I want to start off saying that Javen, or many regard him around the facility as Jet, is an amazing character, amazing human being. I've talked to him on the phone. I've texted with him, as he is just an amazing human. And it was really scary to see that, and it kind of put it in perspective. As we say, football isn't life or death. However, there is a danger in playing football, and you do take a risk playing football. And it was just terrible to see one of my brothers in that situation. And I will say that it was very scary for myself. However, I couldn't imagine what his parents and what he was feeling in that moment. So at that moment, all you could do is, like I said, control the controllables, be positive, pray to God. And thankfully, with the power of himself and God, that he is okay. And that's something that I'm very thankful for. I know that the team's very thankful for, and we all aspire, and we all look up to his resiliency, especially in that moment, and that is a very tough and scary moment.
It's so well said. So well said. All right, question number 4. The title of this show is The It Factory, and I think the phrase "the it factor" is the most overused and undefinable phrase in all of sports. But when you see it, you kind of know it. You have it, Fernando. But I'm
Thank
curious,
you.
how would you describe your it factor?
I would describe the it factor in a couple sentences, or in a sentence. When the lights come on and it's bright and you're thrown to the fire, what are you doing? Are you prepared for the moment? Are you gonna pee down your leg, or are you gonna rise to the occasion? What are you gonna do that moment? Do you have the it factor? Do you have the it factor to lead your teammates, to lead your team, to inspire belief in the ones around you, to have the confidence to throw that game-winning touchdown or sink that game-winning 3? And so that's what I believe the it factor is. And the it factor is a sense of confidence and belief that you have in yourself and that people around you have in you to go out there and perform at a high level.
Yeah, well said, man. I like that. Meet in the moment. That's you. I feel like you seek out those moments. So with that, our final question: when you look at your life and the totality of your experiences, you're still young, we know that, but
Yeah.
you've had a really unique football life. You've had a fun life off the field. We got a photo of you fishing in the broadcast against Oregon.
Yeah, that was really cool.
A unique athlete. Your mom inspires you on many levels. How would you complete the following sentence, which is, it all comes down to...
I would say the generic answer, it all comes down to this, but I would say it all comes down to what you make of it. What you make of your experiences, what you make of your games being played, what you make of your relationships. And I would say that looking in the positive outlook of your life and in your relationships and in your games being played can help you develop as a player, to help you develop as a brother, as a student, and as many other titles that you can name. So whatever you want and whatever your mind and possibilities extend to, I believe that's what it all comes down to.
I love that. All comes down to what you make it. Well, you've made this experience incredible. If I was an official, I'd shake your hand because I love that. It's one of my favorite photos of the entire college football season, man. I just want to be friends. Check out Fernando on social media. Here's the deal. You're a young player, and this podcast isn't going to slow down. So you're coming back on. I want to put in the request for the start of next season already. It's hard to believe here we are at the end of the season. But, get back in the weight room, handle business this weekend, and then, get those chops right. We're bringing you back. I want you on every single year for the lifetime of this podcast, Fernando. As Ted Robinson, my partner, said, you're Rookie of the Year in production meetings already with how you handled all of the questions, but you seem just like a beautiful spirit and really enjoyed getting to know you, man.
Mr. Roth and Mr. Brazel, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me on. This experience has been amazing, and I can't wait to next year.
I love it. How about that? TJ getting a thank you at the end.
But man, TJ.
That's next level. That's next level. All right, there it is. Fernando Mendoza. This is the latest episode of the It Factory. Have a great Thanksgiving. Let us know in the comments what you're most thankful for. Probably for a Cal win if you're listening to this podcast, and Fernando Mendoza, and potentially the final time against UCLA. All right, lots of love. Stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving. Peace.